The air on Mount Olympus was thick with the scent of ambrosia and the faint hum of divine whispers. The gods, draped in their eternal splendor, lounged in their golden halls, their laughter echoing like distant thunder. But beneath the surface of their revelry, a tension simmered, a tension born of a prophecy that had slithered its way into their immortal hearts. It began with the Oracle of Delphi. The Oracle, a mortal woman chosen by Apollo to speak his truths, sat in her dimly lit chamber, her eyes clouded with visions. Her voice, raspy and ancient, carried the weight of the heavens as she spoke. When love becomes a weapon, the gods shall fall, and mortals shall rise. The words spread like wildfire. Hermes, the messenger god, carried them to every corner of Olympus, his winged sandals barely touching the ground. The gods, who had long believed themselves untouchable, now exchanged uneasy glances. What could it mean? Love was their domain, their plaything. How could it turn against them? Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty and love, was the first to act. She summoned her son Eros to her opulent chamber. The walls shimmered with pearls and gold, and the air was heavy with the scent of roses. Eros entered, his bow slung over his shoulder, his youthful face betraying none of the centuries he had lived. "Mother," he said, his voice calm but wary. Aphrodite turned to him, her eyes blazing. "You've heard the prophecy?" Eros nodded. "Love cannot be a weapon, it is a gift, a blessing." "Foolish boy," Aphrodite snapped. "Love is power, and power in the wrong hands is dangerous. The mortals grow restless, they no longer worship us as they once did. If they discover the true power of love, they could overthrow us." Eros frowned. "What would you have me do?" Aphrodite's lips curled into a sly smile. "Use your arrows. Strike the hearts of mortals, but not with passion. Strike them with obsession, with jealousy, with madness. Let love bind them, not free them. Ensure they remain under our control." Eros hesitated. He had always seen his arrows as instruments of joy, of connection. The thought of twisting their purpose felt wrong. But he was a god, bound by the will of Olympus. And so, he obeyed. In the mortal realm, far below the clouds of Olympus, a princess named Psyche gazed at the stars. She was known throughout the land for her beauty, a beauty so radiant that mortals began to whisper she rivaled Aphrodite herself. But Psyche cared little for their praise. She longed for something more, something beyond the walls of her father's palace, beyond the shallow adoration of suitors who saw only her face. One night, as she wandered the palace gardens, a strange wind swept through the trees. It carried with it a single golden arrow, its tip glistening with an otherworldly light. Psyche picked it up, her fingers trembling as she felt its warmth. Unbeknownst to her, the arrow was one of Eros's. It had fallen from his quiver as he flew overhead, his mind clouded with doubt. The moment Psyche touched it, a spark ignited. Within her, a spark that would change everything. Back on Olympus, Eros felt a strange pull, a tug at his divine essence. He looked down at the mortal realm and saw Psyche, her face illuminated by the moonlight. For the first time in centuries, he felt something he couldn't name. Curiosity? Fascination? Aphrodite noticed his distraction. "What are you staring at?" she demanded. Eros quickly averted his gaze. "Nothing, mother." But it wasn't nothing. It was the beginning of something far greater than he could have imagined. As the days passed, whispers of rebellion spread among the mortals. They spoke of the prophecy, of a time when they would no longer be pawns in the games of the gods. Psyche, now marked by the golden arrow, became a symbol of their hope. Aphrodite, sensing the danger, grew furious. "Find her," she commanded Eros. "Find this mortal who dares to challenge me. Use your arrows to destroy her." Eros nodded, but his heart was heavy. He descended to the mortal realm, his bow in hand, his mind a storm of conflicting emotions. He found Psyche on a mountain, abandoned by her people, her beauty now a curse. As he drew his arrow, ready to strike, he hesitated. Psyche looked up. At him, her eyes filled not with fear, but with a quiet strength. "Who are you?" she asked. Eros lowered his bow. "I am no one," he said, his voice barely a whisper. And in that moment, the prophecy began to unfold. The night air was cool against Eros's skin as he stood before Psyche. The mountain peak, stark and unforgiving, was no place for a mortal, let alone one as ethereal as she. Yet here she was, abandoned and alone, her fate hanging precariously in the balance. Eros, the god of love, felt an unfamiliar ache in his chest, a mixture of pity and something more profound, something akin to connection. "I am no one," he had said, a lie born of necessity, for revealing his true identity would spell disaster for them both. But as he looked into Psyche's eyes, he saw not the fear one might expect from a mortal facing a god, but a serene acceptance, a quiet understanding that transcended words. Without another word, Eros made a decision that would defy his mother's command and alter the course of his immortal existence. He reached out, his hand hovering over Psyche's, and whispered an ancient incantation, a spell of protection and concealment. A soft golden light enveloped them, lifting them from the harsh reality of the mortal world into a realm of his own making, the Garden of Eros. The garden was a sanctuary, hidden from the prying eyes of gods and mortals alike. It existed in a fold of reality, a place where time flowed differently, where the essence of love was nurtured and cultivated. Lush, vibrant flowers bloomed in a riot of colors, their petals unfurling to reveal hearts of pure, shimmering light. The air hummed with the gentle music of unseen birds, and a tranquil river flowed through the heart of the garden, its waters reflecting the myriad hues of the sky above. Psyche gasped as she took in her surroundings. "Where are we?" she asked, her voice filled with wonder. "A place where you will be safe," Eros replied, his gaze fixed on her. He led her through the garden, his hand brushing against hers, sending a jolt of warmth through her veins. He showed her the wonders of his hidden world, the trees that bore fruit of pure emotion, the fountains that flowed with liquid love, the creatures that roamed freely, their forms shifting and changing like dreams. As days turned into weeks, Eros found himself drawn to Psyche in ways he had never anticipated. He watched her from the shadows, marveling at her curiosity, her resilience, her unwavering spirit. She explored the garden with the eagerness of a child, her laughter echoing through the tranquil air, a sound that filled Eros with a joy he had long forgotten. But their sanctuary could not remain untouched forever. Aphrodite, ever watchful, grew suspicious of her son's prolonged absence from Olympus. She summoned her handmaidens, the three Graces, and tasked them with uncovering the truth. "Find Eros," she commanded, her voice laced with venom. "And find out what he is hiding." The Graces, with their ethereal beauty and unmatched grace, descended upon the mortal realm, their presence causing a stir among the humans. They moved like whispers through the villages, their keen eyes searching for any sign of Eros or the mysterious mortal who had captured his attention. Meanwhile, in the Garden of Eros, a subtle tension began to weave its way into the fabric of their peaceful existence. Psyche, though grateful for her sanctuary, yearned to know more about her enigmatic savior. She would often find Eros watching her, his expression unreadable, his eyes filled with a longing she couldn't comprehend. "Who are you really?" she asked him one evening as they sat by the river, the water reflecting the soft glow of the setting sun. Eros hesitated. He knew he couldn't keep his identity a secret forever, but the fear of Aphrodite's wrath loomed large. "I am someone who cares for you," he said evasively. "Someone who wants to protect you." Psyche, however, was not satisfied. "But why? Why go against your own kind to save a mortal like me?" Eros turned away, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "Because you are different," he said softly. "You are not like the others. You have a light within you, a spark that I haven't seen in centuries." Their conversations became a delicate dance, a push and pull between trust and secrecy. Psyche, driven by her innate curiosity, pressed for answers while Eros, bound by his duty and fear, remained elusive. Yet, with each passing day, their bond grew stronger, their connection deepening into something that transcended the boundaries of their different worlds. One fateful night, as Psyche lay sleeping, Eros found himself unable to resist the urge to reveal his true form. He stood over her, his heart pounding in his chest, and with a wave of his hand, he shed the mortal guise he had adopted. His wings, vast and radiant, unfurled, casting a soft golden glow over the sleeping form of his beloved. Psyche stirred, her eyes fluttering open. For a moment she saw him as he truly was, a god in all his glory, his beauty surpassing anything she had ever imagined. But before she could speak, before she could fully comprehend what she was seeing, Eros quickly masked himself once more, his heart sinking as he realized the gravity of his mistake. "What was that?" Psyche asked, sitting up, her eyes wide with confusion. Eros retreated into the shadows, his voice barely a whisper. "A dream," he said. "Just a dream." But it was too late. The seed of doubt had been planted, and Psyche's mind, once filled with trust, now grappled with uncertainty. She had seen something extraordinary, and she knew, deep down, that it was more than just a dream. The following days were marked by a growing unease. Psyche's questions became more insistent, her gaze more searching. Eros, torn between his love for her and his fear of the consequences, withdrew further, his silence only fueling her suspicions. Meanwhile, the Graces, guided by a trail of whispers and rumors, finally stumbled upon the hidden entrance to the Garden of Eros. They marveled at its beauty, but their hearts were set on their mission. They observed Psyche and Eros from afar, their keen eyes noting the unspoken connection between them, the way their gazes lingered, the way their hands brushed against each other, sending sparks of energy into the air. Returning to Olympus, the Graces reported their findings to Aphrodite. "Your son has fallen for the mortal," they said, their voices dripping with disdain. "He has hidden her in his garden, shielding her from your wrath." Aphrodite's fury erupted like a volcano, her beautiful face contorted with rage, her eyes blazing with an unholy fire. "He dares defy me?" she hissed. "He dares choose a mortal over his own mother?" She summoned her most loyal servants, the twin gods of fear, Phobos and Deimos, and commanded them to infiltrate the Garden of Eros. "Bring the mortal to me," she ordered, her voice shaking with barely contained rage. "And, as for Eros, remind him where his loyalties lie." As Phobos and Deimos descended upon the garden, their presence casting a dark shadow over its vibrant beauty, Eros felt a chill run down his spine. He knew, with a certainty that shook him to his core, that their sanctuary had been breached, and the fragile peace they had found was about to be shattered forever. He looked at Psyche, her face illuminated by the soft glow of the garden, and knew that he had to make a choice that would determine not only their fate, but the fate of the entire world. The game of the gods had begun, and love had truly become a weapon. The Garden of Eros, once a haven of peace and tranquility, now pulsed with a menacing energy. The arrival of Phobos and Deimos, the twin gods of fear and terror, had shattered the sanctuary's serenity. Their dark presence cast long, ominous shadows over the vibrant flora, causing the flowers to recoil and the once clear waters of the river to churn and darken. Eros, his senses heightened by a growing sense of dread, knew that he could no longer shield Psyche from the truth. The time had come to reveal his true identity and face the consequences of his actions. He found her by the riverbank, her gaze fixed on the disturbed waters, a mirror of the turmoil within her heart. "Psyche," he began, his voice heavy with a mixture of apprehension and resolve. "There is something I must tell you, something I should have told you long ago." Psyche turned to him, her eyes filled with a mixture of curiosity and concern. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Eros took a deep breath, bracing himself for her reaction. "I am not who you think I am," he said, his gaze unwavering. "I am Eros, the god of love." Psyche's eyes widened in disbelief, her mind struggling to reconcile the truth with the reality she had known. "A god?" she breathed, her voice filled with awe and a hint of fear. "But how is that possible?" Eros explained everything, his mother's command, the prophecy, his decision to defy Aphrodite and protect her. He spoke of his struggle, his inner conflict, and the unintended consequences of his actions. He revealed how his arrows, meant to manipulate, had instead awakened a yearning for freedom in the hearts of mortals, turning love into a force of rebellion. As Psyche listened, her initial shock gave way to a deeper understanding. She saw the burden he carried, the weight of his power and the depth of his compassion. She realized that he was not just a god, but a being torn between duty and desire, caught in a web of divine intrigue. "Why did you save me?" she asked, her voice soft but filled with a newfound clarity. Eros looked at her, his heart aching with a love he could no longer deny. "Because you showed me that love is not about control but about freedom," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You showed me that it is a gift, not a weapon." Their moment of connection was shattered by the sudden appearance of Phobos and Deimos. The twin gods, their eyes glowing with malevolent intent, emerged from the shadows, their forms shifting and contorting, embodying the very essence of fear and terror. "Eros," Phobos hissed, his voice like the rasping of metal against stone. "Your mother grows impatient. She demands the mortal's presence." Deimos stepped forward, his form flickering like a phantom. "And you, brother," he sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "You have defied the will of Olympus. You will answer for your betrayal." Eros stood tall, his wings unfurling, casting a radiant light that pushed back the encroaching darkness. "I will not let you take her," he declared, his voice ringing with defiance. A fierce battle ensued. Eros, wielding his bow and arrows, fought with a ferocity born of love and desperation. He unleashed a barrage of golden arrows, each one imbued with the power to ignite not just passion but courage and hope. Phobos and Deimos, masters of fear, countered with waves of darkness, attempting to overwhelm Eros with visions of despair and terror. Psyche, caught in the crossfire, watched in horror as the two forces clashed. She saw Eros fighting not just for her, but for the very essence of love itself. She realized that she was not just a pawn in a divine game, but a catalyst for change, a symbol of the power of love to transform and transcend. As the battle raged, Psyche noticed a single golden arrow lying at her feet, an arrow that had fallen from Eros's quiver during the struggle. It pulsed with a warm, inviting light, beckoning her to take hold of it. An idea, bold and dangerous, sparked in her mind. She remembered Eros's words, his revelation that love, when wielded with purity and sacrifice, could overthrow even the gods. With a newfound resolve, Psyche picked up the arrow. It felt warm and familiar in her hand, as if it were an extension of her own being. She looked at Eros, his face etched with strain as he battled the twin gods, and knew what she had to. "To Eros," she cried, her voice ringing with a newfound power. "I understand now, I understand the prophecy." Eros turned to her, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and apprehension. He saw the arrow in her hand, the determined glint in her eyes, and a sense of foreboding washed over him. "Psyche, no," he pleaded, his voice filled with desperation. "It's too dangerous." But Psyche had made her decision. She raised the arrow, its golden tip gleaming in the dim light, and with a deep breath, she plunged it into her own heart. A blinding light erupted from the wound, engulfing the garden of Eros in a wave of pure, transformative energy. Phobos and Deimos recoiled in horror, their forms flickering and dissolving as the power of love overwhelmed their dark essence. Eros cried out in anguish, rushing to Psyche's side as her body began to glow with an otherworldly radiance. He cradled her in his arms, his tears mixing with the golden light that enveloped them. "Why, Psyche, why did you do it?" he asked, his voice choked with sorrow. Psyche looked up at him, her eyes filled with a serene understanding. "Because love is not just about receiving," she whispered, her voice fading. "It's about giving. It's about sacrifice." As her mortal life ebbed away, a transformation began. Psyche's body, once frail and human, shimmered and reformed, taking on a new, ethereal form. Her skin glowed with a soft golden light, and a pair of delicate butterfly-like wings unfurled from her back. She had become a goddess, a being of pure love and light. The prophecy had been fulfilled. Psyche's sacrifice, an act of selfless love, had shattered Aphrodite's control over mortal hearts. The power of love, wielded not as a weapon of manipulation, but as a force of transformation, had overthrown the old order, ushering in a new era of balance between gods and mortals. Eros, heartbroken but inspired, held Psyche close, his tears now a mixture of sorrow and awe. He had lost his mortal love, but he had gained something far greater: a partner, an equal, a goddess who embodied the true essence of love. As the light faded and the garden of Eros returned to its tranquil state, a figure emerged from the shadows. Aphrodite, her face a mask of shock and disbelief, stood before them, her power visibly diminished. She looked at Psyche, now a goddess, and at Eros, his eyes filled with a newfound strength, and knew that she had been defeated. "You have changed everything," she said, her voice barely a whisper. Eros nodded, his gaze unwavering. "Love has changed," he said. "It is no longer yours to control." Aphrodite, stripped of her power and humbled by defeat, retreated to Olympus, leaving Eros and Psyche to forge a new path, a path where love would be a guiding light, not a weapon of control. The balance had shifted, and the world would never be the same. The Garden of Eros, bathed in the soft golden light of a new dawn, was a testament to the transformative power of love. The flowers, once recoiled in fear, now bloomed with a vibrant intensity, their petals unfurling to reveal hearts that pulsed with a gentle, rhythmic beat. The river, once churned and darkened, now flowed with a clear, serene current, reflecting the peaceful sky above. Eros, his wings spread wide, stood beside Psyche, her hand clasped in his. She was no longer the mortal princess he had fallen in love with, but a goddess, radiant and ethereal, her butterfly-like wings shimmering in the light. Her transformation was complete, a symbol of the profound change that had swept through both the mortal and divine realms. "What happens now?" Psyche asked, her voice filled with a quiet wonder, her eyes reflecting the infinite possibilities that lay before them. Eros turned to her, his gaze filled with a love that transcended time and space. "We rebuild," he said, his voice strong and resolute. "We create a new world, a world where love is not a weapon, but a source of strength, a force for unity." Their first step was to return to Olympus, not as adversaries but as heralds of a new era. The gods, assembled in the grand hall, watched in stunned silence as Eros and Psyche entered, their presence radiating a power that was both familiar and new. Aphrodite, her face pale and drawn, stood among them, her eyes fixed on her son and the goddess he had created. "The prophecy has been fulfilled," Eros announced, his voice echoing through the hall. "Love, wielded with purity and sacrifice, has transformed the old order. We stand before you not as conquerors but as equals." Psyche stepped forward, her gaze sweeping over the assembled gods. "We offer you a choice," she said, her voice ringing with compassion. "Join us in building a new world, a world where gods and mortals coexist in harmony, or remain bound to the old ways, clinging to a power that is fading." The gods, their faces a mixture of fear, confusion, and a glimmer of hope, exchanged uneasy glances. Some, like Zeus, the king of the gods, seemed to ponder the possibilities, his eyes reflecting a flicker of understanding. Others, like Ares, the god of war, remained defiant, their hearts hardened by centuries of conflict. Aphrodite, her pride wounded but her spirit not entirely broken, approached her son. "What of me, Eros?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Where do I fit in this new world? Eros looked at his mother, his heart filled with a complex mix of emotions. He saw the vanity and cruelty that had defined her reign, but he also saw the potential for change, the possibility of redemption. You have a choice, mother, he said gently. Embrace the true meaning of love, not as a tool of manipulation, but as a force for beauty and creation. Help us heal the wounds of the past or be consumed by them. Aphrodite's eyes welled with tears, her carefully constructed facade crumbling before the power of her son's words. She looked at Psyche, the goddess her actions had inadvertently created, and saw not a rival but a reflection of the love she had long sought to control. I will try, she said, her voice trembling. The decision, however, was not hers alone. The other gods too had to choose their path. Some, inspired by Eros and Psyche's example, pledged their support, their hearts opening to the possibility of a new way. Others, unable to relinquish their old power, retreated to the shadows, their influence waning as the world around them transformed. With the support of a growing number of gods, Eros and Psyche set about their task. They descended to the mortal realm, where the seeds of rebellion sown by Eros's arrows had blossomed into a desire for freedom and self-determination. They guided the mortals not with arrows of manipulation, but with words of wisdom and acts of compassion, helping them to build a society founded on the principles of love, respect, and equality. Eros, no longer a mischievous child god, evolved into a wise and compassionate deity. He used his arrows sparingly, not to ignite passion or sow chaos, but to mend broken hearts, to foster understanding, and to nurture the bonds of love between mortals. Psyche, once a mortal princess, became a symbol of courage and self-sacrifice. She was revered by mortals and gods alike, her name whispered in prayers of hope and gratitude. She became the guardian of true love, guiding mortals to find it within themselves, teaching them that love was not a fleeting emotion, but a journey of self-discovery, a path to inner peace. Aphrodite, humbled and transformed, began to rediscover the true meaning of beauty and love. She shed her vanity and cruelty, embracing a new role as a patron of the arts, inspiring mortals to create works of beauty that reflected the depths of their emotions, the power of their love. As the centuries passed, the memory of the old world, the world of conflict and manipulation, faded into legend. The gods, once distant and aloof, became more involved in the lives of mortals, guiding them not as rulers, but as mentors, as friends. The Garden of Eros remained a sanctuary, a place where mortals could seek solace and guidance, a place where the essence of love was nurtured and celebrated. Eros and Psyche often returned to their hidden paradise, their love for each other a beacon of hope, a testament to the enduring power of transformation. One evening, as they stood by the river, the water reflecting the starry sky above, Psyche turned to Eros, her eyes filled with a love that had only deepened with time. "Do you think it will last?" she asked, her voice soft but filled with a hint of uncertainty. "This peace, this new world we have created?" Eros smiled, his gaze unwavering. "It will last as long as we remember the lesson we have learned," he said. "As long as we remember that love, when embraced as a gift, has the power to transform and transcend even the divine. And as a new prophecy, whispered by the winds of change, hinted at a future where the balance between gods and mortals would continue to evolve. Eros and Psyche knew that their journey was far from over. They were the guardians of a new era, the protectors of a love that had the power to shape the destiny of the world. Their love story, etched in the annals of mythology, would forever serve as a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the power of love, pure and true, could always prevail, illuminating the path towards a brighter future, a future where gods and mortals walked hand in hand, their hearts united by a love that knew no bounds.